Hey guys, welcome back to the video. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the future in the MCU and why you really shouldn't be worried about it, because I know a lot of people on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, a lot of people have been saying, oh, the MCU is so disconnected, nothing feels interconnected like it used to in the Infinity Saga. But personally, I actually think it's really cool that they're starting to separate and spread out this universe, and I have three main reasons for it. Before we get into it, because you're new here, make sure that subscribe button to notifications on so you don't miss any time of the video or I go live, both are wasting more time. Let's get right into it. So my first reason is that this is literally going to allow us to explore so many new characters. With just Phase 4 itself, we've been introduced to characters like Moon Knight, all of the Eternals, Kate Bishop, and a bunch new characters. But also on top of just new characters, we also get to have more of, I guess, an emotional dive into a lot of these characters that were really just sidelined, or they were like killed off, brought back, killed off, brought back. Characters like Loki, for example, where in the past he just felt like a reoccurring villain, a reoccurring character in the Thor movies. Also characters like Hawkeye and honestly Black Widow, but personally I don't think Black Widow is considered all of this, but I'll get to that later. Even characters like Doctor Strange, we get to explore more of an emotional side of these characters, especially like Hawkeye, for example. I honestly never felt a single emotion towards this character at all before, because personally I'm a huge Doctor Strange fan and I actually like Loki a lot in the Avengers movies, so I don't mind him actually. But emotionally, we've gotten to dive so deep into these characters and actually understand these characters' past and I guess the consequences of their emotions and their actions, and we never really got to do that in the Infinity Saga. And a big reason for that is just number one, how basic everything was in the Infinity Saga. For example, all of the movies in this new lineup in Phase 4 have been fairly unique. Starting it off with Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi introduced the brand new fantastical side of the MCU. The first half, yes, it was a lot more grounded action, but definitely the second half, it took it to a whole other level. Next up, we had Eternals. Whether you like the movie or not, it definitely had a different filmmaking stamp, and it did the most grand thing the MCU has ever done in something that's not like a huge team-up movie. We didn't know any of the Eternals before. We got introduced to all of them and still had a fantastic story, in my opinion, with the whole Icarus twist and stuff like that. Then we had Spider-Man No Way Home, which is one of the best superhero movies of all time, in my opinion. It's the first superhero movie to ever use like cameos that's essential to the story, and I absolutely love that about it. And then now we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which in my opinion is the second best MCU movie. These movies allow for such difference in the storytelling, and that's only because they don't have to be so lined up one by one, just giving us plot point A, plot point B to build up to something big that's in like 2 to 3 years after that. But I quickly want to get back to more characters before I move on to my second point, but I just have to say that having these bigger characters allows for us to explore the multiverse, not just our universe. And things like the variants have really helped us with that. Things like Loki, Doctor Strange, these movies, even Spider-Man No Way Home, these movies, they allow us to explore the multiverse without actually having to dive too deep into the concept necessarily. For example, Loki, whenever they went into the planet that you get pruned in, you saw a bunch of different Lokis. That introduced us to really just variants for the first time, and it really just worked. Everything felt so natural. But if we had to interconnect every single little thing and make sure every single little thing built up one by one to make some big finale thing or a big team-up movie, then we wouldn't get these great individual stories. And in order to build up this next phase of the MCU, we're not just building up the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now they're building up the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that we're not just building up a universe now. They are building up an entire multiverse of characters, and that's going to get into the Secret War stuff, which I've already made an ending explain video for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, so you can go check that out, because I don't want to dive too deep into spoilers here. But we need a lot more characters in order to do things like Time Runs Out or Secret Wars. These movies seem like they're going to be the big finale for the next saga in the MCU, and I don't think it's going to be possible without these grand different sides of the MCU. For example, Captain America or Icarus, right? You can't have these two just fighting next to each other, but in Secret Wars, Captain America can fight a variant of himself and Icarus can fight a variant of himself, and that's how it'll work, because you can't have Captain America and Icarus fight Thanos. You know what I'm saying? I'm just using the past villain as an example. Or even like Doctor Doom. Like, Captain America would have no use there, let's be honest. Why it worked in the past in the MCU is because in Endgame, they dwindled it down back to the main 6 Avengers. But now we really have no core heroes. We have Doctor Strange, who in my opinion has been the core of the MCU since like Infinity War, where you just had him like on almost every single project, making a returning role and kind of bringing everything together in terms of just bringing together the multiversal side of things. But again, without getting into too many spoilers for Multiverse of Madness, the end credit scene shows that he will be going back to his more cosmic side of the MCU, and it seems like he's going to be taking a step away from, I guess, the grounded side. My second reason is for better filmmaking. I think having having this expansive Marvel universe that doesn't have everything so interconnected allows for way better filmmaking. And like I said before, we aren't just based on like, okay, this movie has to build to this movie, has to build to this movie, and then we have a few solo projects, but they, at the end, they all have to build up to this thing. That's not how it is here. And so they don't have to have some like cohesive style. It can be something very, very different, kind of like what the DC cinematic universe did, except in my opinion, the movies themselves just weren't that good. But you can tell stylistically, they were so different from one another. Movies like Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman, Batman v Superman, these movies are all so different from one another, but still were under the same universe. I think that's what Marvel is doing, except they're not doing it as drastically, but you can definitely tell the differences in movies like Eternals, Multiverse of Madness, Shang-Chi, No Way Home, and Black Widow. So this is now where I want to talk about Black Widow, because personally I think it's the movie that stands out of the crowd of the rest of the MCU movies in Phase 4 as the least unique. And the reason for that, which proves my point, is that it feels like an Infinity Saga movie where it's like we had this static period where we had just a bunch of 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 movies. In my opinion, Black Widow is like a 5 out of 10. It's like the most mediocre thing I've ever seen. But it is just so average, both visually and action-wise in the second half at least. I just think Black Widow is one of the most average movies in the MCU, and a lot of the early MCU did feel like that because they were trying to be so cohesive. If we look at movies, for example, in release order, Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way Home, and Multiverse of Madness, they seem so different from one another, and it looks like that's going to be the trend going forward. We have Thor: Love and Thunder in July, then we have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, then we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, then we have the Marvels. I feel like this is allowing for a better spectrum of film to be made, and I feel like a lot of people, maybe they don't value that. Maybe they don't want these separated, super unique movies, but even the shows play a big role in that. For example, in my opinion, no two shows in the MCU do feel alike. I will say in terms of what's like the basic, just an average show, I would say like Captain America and the Winter Soldier and Hawkeye feel like basic MCU, but in my opinion, Falcon and Soldier is still a pretty good show. Hawkeye, you know, it's not the best thing in the world, but even the most unique shows are the best in my opinion. For example, Loki is super unique. That's why it's my favorite. WandaVision is very unique in its storytelling. That's why it's my second favorite. And Moon Knight is my third favorite because of just how different it is on, I guess, like just taking us into the psyche of someone's head. No other show did that, and honestly, no other MCU project has really done that. These differences in projects and not having to focus on connecting to one another allows for a way wider spectrum of filmmaking to be made. And again, it allows for less average movies. That's my third point, is just a bunch of less average movies is what we're gonna get. I feel like the MCU is at such a stagnant point, other than like James Gunn or Taika Waititi, we really had no huge directive flair in the MCU. Even movies like Doctor Strange 1, where it was visually really surprising, but you couldn't tell that there was a distinct style to it. Sam Raimi and kind of Chloe Zhao have brought that back. Shang-Chi is fairly unique in terms of, I guess, the action and stuff like that, but I will say that as a whole, it does feel like the most MCU formulaic out of the 4 movies that I'm mentioning. No Way Home at times in like the first half does feel like a formulaic MCU movie, but I will say the second half completely goes off that rail. It feels like it is John Watts' movie after that apartment scene, and that apartment scene is easily one of the most creative scenes in the entire MCU in my opinion, and again, it just feels like that was John Watts' scene, not the MCU's. And also parts of Multiverse of Madness, or most of Multiverse of Madness to be honest, it just feels like it's pure Sam Raimi, and it works so well, and they're the best parts of the movie, and it makes the movie not just an average flick in my opinion. Whenever we're 10 years down the line, I think we'll all be happy that it wasn't as interconnected. It allows for way better individual movies instead of making a bunch of average movies for one super great one, which in my opinion, the Infinity Saga would be Infinity War. But yeah guys, again, those are all my thoughts on the future of the MCU. Let me know what you guys think of this loose connectivity in the MCU going into Phase 4 and the future of Phase 4 in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.